Well, everyone, I promised you that for my very last podcast, Pre-Maternity, I would get the elusive, the man, the one and only Bryn Kenney on the show. Bryn, welcome. It's hard for me to keep track of where you are, but like you've got some palm trees in the background this time.
Yeah, actually, it's not a place of palm trees. It's Las Vegas in an Encore room. But yeah, hard to keep track of myself sometimes.
Yeah, well, you look fantastic. I know, gosh, it must have been 5 years ago or something. Maybe you lost like 60 pounds in some kind of a bet. And it just feels like you've really, I think a lot of players do like actually a lot of human beings do the yo-yo game in fitness, myself included. But it feels like you've really grounded yourself in so many ways, and your fitness clearly being one of them. And you're in Vegas. The US Poker Open is going on. Most poker players I know are degenning every like tournament. I shouldn't say degenning, I'm terrible, but are playing every tournament they can. And you're out here like doing an interview, hanging out. Like, tell me what's going on in the life of Bryn Kenney.
Yeah, so I of course I had like that. Actually, it wasn't even a yo-yo because most of my poker career I was just on the upside of it, and then I had about two stints of losing all this weight. But then it's like unless if you really set these these like things into your life where like health into your life, you're just going to go back and forth if you're not really connected to wanting to do that. But now it's just like I've been working out, eating super healthy, and actually now when I haven't smoked at all in a week. Also, I want to take at least like a month break where I've just smoked so much weed my whole life and feel like it's time to kind of cleanse my system from that. And even since I've been really so healthy, whenever I go out now to dinners that are, so many of these places, even the healthy places, they just drown it in oil and butter and cream. And my system doesn't want that anymore. It wants to eat that clean living, feel good. So my whole life, really, I've just I've been so focused and strong in like the mental aspect of things, and really just forgot about the health aspect of things, and didn't really realize how important it was to show up in your best with just good energy every day. Feeling great is such an important thing. And yeah, I'm loving it. So it's like, I guess an important thing in life is not to stay stuck in what you are or what you were, but to transition yourself into what you want to be and implement these things in life that connect to what it is that you want to be and what makes you feel great. So for me now, it's just been having more of a balance, putting my phone down a lot, getting outside, going for bike rides, just walking around, just breathing. And people, so many people think of breathing like, oh, of course I breathe. But I would say, I still have no idea how to breathe. Like most people take short breaths or not actually filling their lungs with oxygen, not actually supporting their system for what they need. So it's always so cool because life is just amazing, because you can have such a great understanding of something and then have no understanding of something else. So you can always just jump into new areas that you're interested in and start as a beginner. And there's never, that's why even people who call themselves a master of anything, a master says that you reached a certain level, that there's no growth from there, which I don't really think exists in anything. It's more like if you're on the right path, you're more like a student of life forever.
Which brings up an interesting point, because I would say being at the top of the all-time money list, some might consider you a master, the master of this game. And it seems like at the top, you've also like pulled back quite a lot, which I think speaks probably to how you get to where you are, but maybe also taking some time to enjoy where you are. Talk to me a little bit about how being the master has sort of shifted the way that you're approaching poker.
Yeah. So I see like my whole poker journey as like climbing a mountain. You know, when you along that mountain, when you're in your early stages, you think that you could run at certain points. Then when you try to run, you just slip down and start over again. And then you get more knowledge, more understanding, and you start scaling that mountain with intelligence and smart decisions. And you're precautious, and eventually if you keep putting your, because I've made just tons of mistakes throughout my poker career, but the important thing, I mean, they've all been money related, of being careless about money really. But the important thing is always just like accept where you're at and not be burdened by what your past was, and just reflect on that and try to be better every day. So I guess let's talk about where making it to the top of that mountain. So yeah, I would say I made it to the top of that mountain, but at the top of that mountain, looking around, I see that that was just a baby mountain with all these giant mountains around. So it's like, a lot of people, they get comfort in being the best at something or whatever skill they have, and they kind of just stay on the top of that mountain forever. But for me, if my life was classified in the end of the day that I was the best poker player in the world and that's it, I would say that's a completely unfulfilling existence, because I've been so blessed, like from early age, just with love and acceptance around me, and really being in this life, this poker life that I've had. You train your mind and yourself in so many different ways. You're in so many different challenges, and it really tests you in an intense way over and over again of, if you get knocked down, can you get back up again? And I feel like with those skills and with the intelligence that I have and the network that I have, I feel like a responsibility to myself and to the world, really, to use what I've learned and use the resources that I have to try to, to go run and try to go on the next journey and go up that next mountain. And really, I mean, I want to make a difference in the world. And I feel like I'm in a perfect situation and scenario where I can use those skills and what I've learned to really take it to the next level and, fight and stand up for others. And that's the same thing with my poker career. How do you go from being a millionaire to a negative millionaire, sometimes over a night, with something out of your control and a bad decision that you make? And for me, it's always been that my success is rooted into other people's happiness and other people's success also. So you could knock me down, but I fight for my family, for my friends, for others that I can help along this path. And, that's always just been the fire burning inside of me, where you can't really, you can knock me down, but unless if you kill me, I'm going to keep getting back up and fighting for the people that I love. And I would say that that goes so much further. And the people that I love is the world, and making a difference in the world and being that person that others can learn from and incorporate some of the skills and lessons that I've learned in this life. So a lot has been, I read this amazing book. It's called The USA Guide to Balance. And what I got, so there's 3 sections in the book. It's mind, body, and spirit. And in the mind section, I could relate really to so much that it said. It really connected with me very deeply. So that meant for me that all the content in that book, of all regards, was very good content. And what I took away from that was, unless if you're, taking care of or thinking of all aspects, mind and spirit. And like for me, I was so far ahead, I would say, in the mind aspect, but because I wasn't fueling and feeding my body and my spirit, then it's like those pulled everything back, so I could only attain a certain level, because I see like a symbiosis between the 3. So by now, focusing on the other aspects, I see myself transforming at such a pace that is incredible. So it's like every day I just wake up wanting to be better, wanting to show up for myself and everyone that I can show up for.
It seems like you kind of answered this question already within that answer. So one of one of our reporters wanted to know, what you think about this new ranking system that PokerGo came up with, and really just to know, like, does being seen as being the best, is that something that's really important to you? And I do want to like throw this out there even before you answer, because I remember probably 7 years ago or something like that, talking to you. We had a nice conversation at the PCA. And even 7 years ago, you told me, I am the best. Like, I'm the best. So to me, it feels like for you, maybe it doesn't matter so much what other people think. Somehow inside you always knew you were the best anyways. But does all of this sort of clout and trying to stay at the top, like you mentioned, which is important to a lot of people, is that something that you value anymore really at all?
Only the real value that I have behind it is that I think I'm a great ambassador for the game, and I love the game, and I want to see it grow, and I want to see it highlighted in the right way, and I want to see people who are there to have fun and play actually have fun and play. So even when I was like climbing those charts, I would always be the person that when someone new comes into the high roller scene, like a businessman or so, I would always like kind of welcome him into the arena. And because I love that, you want to incorporate like a good environment so that the game that you love can grow. And these 10K, 25K, 50K events that happen every day, I have no interest at all in that, because that would be pretty much saying that, my focus is on poker and having that title or winning more money there, which I really have no interest in. But at the same time, anyone who thinks that they're the best, whenever a big tournament comes around, let's say 250K buy-in, super high roller bowl, like $1 million buy-in, just like the last one, I'm ready to put my money where my mouth is against anyone at all times. And if they think that, because I haven't played in the last little bit, that they're more prepared than I am, then, there's only one way to prove that, throw in a bunch of money into the fire and let's see what goes on.
Which brings me to, so there's been, of course, a lot of hype around this, like Daniel and Phil, Phil Antonio. Phil has relatively famous in the poker world, at least, said, you're at the top of the money list, but he is, of course, the greatest. And it's interesting because I would say that your response has thus far encapsulated most of the things that you've just spoken about. You basically said, let's put $1 million up, both of us. Every cent that I earn will be given away in $10,000 increments to things I think are doing good causes, essentially. So it is always about that giving back for you. But I'm interested in this Phil dynamic to begin with, because I actually think for you too, you're both players who have said that you play a lot from your guts and a lot from your instinct. And I would really like to see this, not just for me, but also, like you're talking about, what's ways that we can support poker, make people excited about poker, bring people to poker. And I feel like you two are, that's a match I would like to see.
Yeah, for sure. And, I want to give respect and credit to Phil for sure, too. He's got the most bracelets in the world. He's been crushing these guys in his heads up matches. So, I mean, he must have special type of instinct for just things in general. And yeah, he's a character for sure. So my first encounter live with Phil, I think we were playing a 10K horse or so at the World Series. And I played this completely standard hand, and he just starts berating me at the table. And I just look at him and I say, Phil, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but, we could just go on the other table right there and play for 100,000 in any game that you want to play. Whatever game in the mix, you can create a game if you want. Just teach me the rules and I'll play you for 100,000. And he kind of shut up like right there. And he can talk all he wants, but as when he wants to talk about, apex predator and best in the world, like, okay, sure, Phil. So how do you want to, prove that? You want to play me heads up? You want to cross book in tournaments? You want to cross book in cash games, mixed, PLO, no limit hold'em? You choose the game and, choose a high price and let's just play. And we could teach people, we can show people who is the best, Phil, anytime.
I love it. I love it. Just whatever terms, whatever six, whatever game. I don't even care. And
yeah, as long as it's got cards, just teach me the rules. And as long as they're clear rules, I'll play them still. So he can, he could take this time to, create a game in his house and practice it for the next month and just teach me the rules. Give me like a few days and I'll play you for huge.
Never a man shy about gambling, not afraid to put his money where his mouth is. Well, it's interesting because I opened it up to our Twitter audience. I know you're one of the players that when we get an interview with you, people are excited, and I wanted to give people the opportunity. You're kind of quiet sometimes in the poker world. You're not a man deeply invested in social media, which I very much can respect and appreciate. But I wanted to give them the opportunity to ask the things also that they want to know. And Justin asked, would you be willing or interested in a combination competition of poker and sports challenges against Charlie McAvoy? I'm not sure who that is, but basically he says they're great athletes from his hometown and he's interested to see which sports you think you would be competitive at. Is this coming from the whole thing with Jason Kuhn? Are we now like making poker players also into professional athletes?
Well, like that's like a tough thing to say because of course, like if I compete against someone who's like a semi-pro or pro athlete, like I have no chance in their arena really. And then like poker, anyone has a chance to beat anyone. So I don't see that as something like very fair, but in something that's fair, if you talk about me and someone else who have no knowledge in anything and competing in a range of different mind-based and skill challenges, like absolutely. But at the same, I'll love to, put myself in the ringer and compete in something new as long as I have a chance. And competing against like a semi-pro athlete in anything, I'd say I don't really have a chance.
A little humility though too, I think goes a long way, knowing and understanding where your limits and skills are. And this is a question I'm actually really curious about as well. The Happy Goblin wants to know, other than yourself, who do you think is currently the best no limit hold'em player?
It's hard to say because I haven't really played any poker.
That's true, and that's fair.
In the ring, like if I was playing recently, I'd have a good answer for that. And you never want to say the people who are winning the most are playing without really seeing it, because there can be a lot of variance. People can be, feeling good and confident and not even playing their best, but that confidence will transition into winning. So I would love to give an answer, but I don't think I have the information of recent times to be able to give a fair assessment. So I don't want to do anyone injustice by answering that.
Which is crazy because was Triton 3 years ago?
2 years ago, right?
I'm trying to think. It's like basically 1 year just disappeared. So it's really messing up all
yeah, exactly. One year completely disappeared. There was nothing.
So I'm trying to remember, but it can shift so dramatically in the course even of 2 years at the top of the poker game. And most of us don't really understand what that looks like. Can you talk more about how that shift can happen?
Yeah, because to stay at the top, like at the highest level of anything, you really have to be putting a lot into it. And that doesn't necessarily have to be study. So like before that Triton Million, when I was winning like every tournament that year, I wasn't really playing so much poker, but I was giving myself I put so much time into poker before that. So I was really confident in my game and my skills in the game. So what I focused on instead was living more of a balanced life and actually giving myself time off and time time to integrate certain things and improve in areas that I wanted to improve in. So like one way, after I won the back-to-back tournaments at the Triton Montenegro, which was the last Triton before London, and they were talking about potentially being $1 million event. And, when I heard that event, and people didn't know also because I was winning everything that year, but I got myself into a bad situation also. So I think by the Triton, I'd won already 6 or 7 million in the year. And I actually just got my head above water again. I think I needed to win like 5.5 million that year just to get even from where I was at.
Which
So
was, no one thought that would happen, but little did they
yeah.
know.
Yeah. So like when I won the Triton, everybody thought that, I was pumped up again. And throughout my career, when I was doing really well, I would make more careless decisions and careless mistakes and maybe not be as prepared, where if things were going poorly, I would really prepare myself. So in those next 3 months, I just told myself that I wanted to prepare myself for that game mentally, because I felt like my game was there. So during that World Series, I might have played 4 events or so, and I played every one of those, I think, last minute registration. So I really played almost nothing. So when the Triton Million came around, everybody thought that, I was rich again and careless. So they didn't realize though that I was actually just preparing for that exact event. And then when I went on Twitter and just posted that I would bet myself or my team against anyone else or anyone else's team, they thought that that was, a cocky, conceited like move. But in reality, I just wanted to throw people off and just make them think that I was, in that unprepared, cocky, rich mindset, as opposed to very calm, collected, and prepared and focused to play my best. So it's like, poker is such a mind game and a leveling war. And sometimes you can get into people's head just by the words that you say before the game and just give them a preconceived notion of where you're at, which could really throw them off. And I think first off, I think those bets, I think it was like the best bets ever, because I was like in the driver's seat for my side of the action. But then all the people that bet against me, they were betting on other people and other teams. So it's like these other guys, they had no skin in the game that I was betting against. And it was a must cash last longer effectively. And so I could navigate a way where I would cash a high percentage of the time. On the businessman side, like my part, like I was there with Carrie, and I thought he was the most likely person to cash also from the businessman. And in that tournament, actually, when we made the money, I actually only had 2 starting stacks, and the most I had in that tournament at any point, I think, was 2.5 starting stacks. I didn't get all in at a single point. So I really like navigated my way to make the money with very little risk, and then was able to scoop all the bets since no one else cashed. And then I put myself in a position to win. I won a flip. It was like ace 10 versus 2s versus Dan Smith as like the first one. As soon as we hit the money, then I won another big flip, ace king versus 5s. And then we made the final table. I had a middle of the run stack and made, I'd say, a lot of good decisions, played really well. And they told me recently that they're actually they're making those Triton episodes, so people will get to see them more. And I think, one thing that people were telling me just on the interview also is that the focus and the calmness, people compared me to Cristiano Ronaldo, of like when he's ready to take a penalty kick, you could just see him in a pure calm state, just prepared for that moment and not burdened by other thoughts or other expectations to do anything other than just be there and be focused and play like any other day. And yeah, it was incredible, because after we made the deal heads up, I guess I used so much energy and focus like to prepare myself for that. I wasn't even able to eat food really throughout the days on like the second and third day, because the goal was to just treat it like it was any other tournament, and just to try to get past that this was the biggest tournament ever, and that every person that knew me was watching and was writing me messages. So one thing, if you notice, you'll be able to see is me getting up from the table a lot and just really just breathing and just getting myself into that calm, centered state, so that all that I was focused on was being present in that moment and making the correct decision, and not letting myself have any other thoughts go into my head. And then as soon as we made that deal, it's like my body and everything just crashed. Throughout the tournament, you could see that I was very calm and focused and patient. And when we were still playing for $1 million, maybe 1.1 or so, but I had no more gas in my tank. I kind of like pressed like things so that the tournament could get over with quicker, because I knew that I had nothing left. And actually the next week after that, I guess I drained so much energy that I could barely walk. And that never happened to me actually before. I was in my apartment with my mom and girlfriend in London, and I was having to use the couch even to hold on to, just to walk around the apartment, where there was a night where we got this nice bottle of wine, and I couldn't take really anything in. It was like, okay, you've got to just drink green juice and eat healthy food and bring back the nutrients into your system that you just really used everything of.
Dude, that is bananas. And I totally believe that, though it's connected, like what you're saying, right? This sort of symbiosis between the mind, body, and spirit, and that you could literally put so much of yourself into, 2 or 3 of these elements that the third one is like, okay, I can't even function. And it's interesting because we've talked personally about I'm doing a home birth, right? And a lot of what they talk about in a lot of things I've been reading the last 6 months are about breathing and about being present and about, like having all this awareness of your body. And you speak so fluidly to so many of these things that I think it's taken people their whole lives to get to. But I'm curious because a lot of what I've been reading about also is about your perceptions as you come into something, right? What you think it's going to be like or feel like, or having confidence really in yourself. And it's funny because I do think probably you have a reputation in the poker world as being cocky, and yet this confidence and this like belief in yourself and in situations is also seems to be a very powerful and important tool in being successful. So I'm curious your sort of thoughts and interpretations on the balance, if there is any, or maybe just the misinterpretation of people, the difference between cockiness and confidence.
Yeah, so I would say like pure confidence is a rare trait for people to have. A lot of that cockiness that people show is really just an insecurity in themselves, and they're trying to project a feeling of what they wish they were or what they want to be, and they're so outward about it. Whereas, saying about creating that certain image. So if I create a certain image of cockiness, but in reality, I just have this pure confidence in myself where I'm putting in the time, playing poker always, and self-reflecting on myself and trying to improve and be better. So I think that, confidence is the most important thing in any area to have. And it's also, you have to really believe in yourself. And it's, it seems like an easy thing, but the world kind of tries to throw you off from that centeredness and that confidence that you have. So to really have that, because other people will judge you and put a label like cockiness on it, and they think that it's not the right way to be. But putting like your perception on what is the right way to be to anyone else is never really going to fit, because everyone's such a unique individual. Different things work for different people. So to say that anyone should be a certain way is just putting an unfair label on them. And I think that I've just, like how I was saying, always being accepted, like, and allowed to be who I felt that I was, I think enabled me to have that confidence in myself. Like my mom was letting me fly around to magic tournaments at 13 years old, from New York to Florida with friends and staying in a hotel by myself. And she just trusted that I was prepared to make smart, conscious decisions. And she let me go the path that I believed in. And I feel like who I am today is from that. And without the love and support and the allowance from the people closest to me to really beat to my own drum and to be the person that I believed in, really was that support to let me get to the top of this industry, and what I hope and believe will really do a lot more to transform others' lives and to try to show them, and it's not even like a roadmap for success. Really, the roadmap for having a successful life is being happy and having good people around you and doing what it is that you love. So there's no staple, or there's no exact recipe for what that is, unless if you connect to yourself and really ask yourself those questions and stay true to what it is that you believe in your heart.
I feel that. I'm getting all verklempt over here. Okay, so one of the things that someone was asking about was basically just with your, travel schedule. We all know what it's like to be a poker player with really long days and long hours, but clearly you've put a focus on your own health. And what would you suggest, or what are some of the things that you do to have a healthy sleep schedule, to have a healthy eating schedule, even in the midst of this, relatively chaotic life?
Yeah, I would say that I didn't really implement these things during my poker career, so it's not really what I did, but looking back, I could give good analysis of what someone could do. It's and difficult, hard. I don't even really like those words, because if you say that something's hard or difficult, it's almost like you've accepted that you can't do it. So it's about putting in like the time necessary for you to do what it is that makes you feel calm and relaxed. And I think to have that good sleep schedule, you have to be in a calm state, so that, as opposed to, I know a lot of the people that I was competing against, they would play the end of a first day or a second day, and they would go back to their room and study for hours before the next day. And I think that's a disastrous move, because all the studying should be before, and when you're in the moment, you should be prepared and focused on that moment, and being able to have just sleep before your second days and third days of tournaments, and being able to go through that journey of a tournament feeling in your best. And maybe it can help to, you wake up in the morning, you just go disconnect a little bit, you go for a walk, you go to the gym, you go for a swim, you do something that can calm yourself, so that when you're in the moment, you can make those correct, tough decisions. Where, if you're worried about things, or if you haven't had enough sleep. So people would think, that I always like to late register tournaments and such, but that wasn't really the case. It was more that I would ask myself, where was I at? Was I prepared to go and play from the start of a tournament? And by day 3, was I going to be focused that I could give my best in that day 3? And the beginning of the tournament, everyone's so focused on getting maximum value and maximum equity. But for me, I was focused on, would I have enough energy, and do I feel good that I could start this and go through that experience with being at my best at the later stages. And at those later stages, that's where the real money is won and lost. So if people were going in and Because you go to long festivals, you go to a festival, it's 10 days, 14 days, there's tournaments every single day. So if you don't give yourself that balance and relaxation, you could be playing tournaments around the clock every day. And, if there's a big high roller at the end of the series and you're on day 9 of playing all day, every day, you're probably going to be burnt out. But on the opposite side, I'm only going to go and play when I'm prepared to play. So my thinking would be, okay, no, you don't have to do anything except for when you bag a stack in a tournament. You've got to be there on time. Otherwise, you're going to lose chips. But apart from that, you need to really, ask yourself what you need to be your best and to follow that over anything else.
It's like in the horse races, right? Where they have the front runners that just like gas out sometimes before the end. And then you got the guys that you didn't even see in the beginning that just like are ready to push it at the end when it really matters.
Exactly.
Okay, so the WSOP just released its schedule. Can we expect to see you at all at the WSOP this year? Where will we
I
see
think
you
at all,
next?
I think at all is a fair assessment. I just looked at the schedule a little bit. I was skimming through buy-ins and just saying, okay, do I care about these buy-ins? And it seems like the main event, a 50K and the 250K are very close to each other. And I love poker. I'll always love poker, and I love competing. I love the aspect of competing versus other very intelligent people in an abstract problem scenario environment. So, I think there's a good chance. I think there might also be a super high roller bowl maybe in September. And for something that's like 250K buy-in or more, that can get me going, and get me excited for sure. So I'd say that in the 250K WSOP, maybe the main event. And nowadays I saw a little of the main event schedule, and you could buy into 2 levels on day 2 this year. And everyone think, oh well, I've got to be at day 1 to have like my value. I'm like, oh okay, that's sweet. I'll be there probably for last minute registration. And yeah, main event's like a cool one, so that if you final table the main event, that's an achievement. Also, it's a fun event, just like the same aspect of being an ambassador for the game. So showing up for the main event, doing a few interviews, playing a 250K here or there, and trying to grow the game of poker is definitely of interest to me always. So I'd say, yeah, so probably it won't be until then. Actually, there's a 100K heads up tournament on like July 12th in Vegas. And I said that I would go play. I'd say that there's probably 50-50 chance I'll play depending on what's going on at the time. And if I can spare the time, based on like what I'm trying to create in my life now. But yeah, definitely can expect to see me in some high buy-in tournaments, having fun, having a bunch of laughs.
We will definitely be looking forward to that. And I have just one more question for you before we let you get on with your life, and something that one of the homies on Twitter wanted to know. You mentioned your mama. I know that your family is very important to you, which I love. And the New York poker community wants to know how often you get back to Long Island, how often you get Long Beach, New York City area. Do you spend any of the summer there? When can we expect to see you back in New York?
I was actually just there before coming here, I think for maybe 10 days or so. My sister just graduated from Cornell Law School. So all the family was there at home. 2 of my brothers live in Colorado. They flew out for that. So when like with all this like lockdown and COVID stuff, I wasn't able to see my grandma for maybe a year, maybe a little more than a year, which was the longest that I've ever went without seeing her. So, I have my family flew. I have a place in Miami, so my family flew out there for Christmas this year. And yeah, I mean, I love my family more than anything. Like I was telling them when I was there too, I feel like I wouldn't be there without all of them, without the support and the love that they've just given me and the strength throughout my life, my career. And yeah, I wouldn't be here without them. So, it's such a special place in my heart, and always love to see them when the time is right. So I don't know when the next time I'll be back there is, but I was happy to be there for 10 days. And a lot of times too, when I would go, I would stay in the city sometimes, because we were renovating my childhood home, and where we're living now was kind of tight, cramped spaces where I couldn't really function the way that I want to function. So it was nice on this trip where I stayed at my childhood home, because my dad, after like 2.5 years, and he's a do everything myself type of guy, so he really built that house like himself with very little help. He might have gotten people to come in to do electrical work. Of course, people raised the house and did like plumbing and stuff, but in terms of like building the structure and all of the spaces, he really did it all himself. And it was nice just to, because I know that he put in all of that effort out of love for the family, so that when people come back, that they have a place to stay that they feel comfortable in. So even just to be able to stay there for a bit and be happy and comfortable, I know that it made him happy. And sometimes people, they don't even know how to express the love that they have for someone, and it'll be in something like that. And I could see, all the love that he put in building this house for everybody. And yeah, it made me happy to see him happy, and to see a fulfillment in him for what he did. And that's another thing, for me, I've always been very perceptive to people. So without even words, I could always see and feel like the selflessness that my dad really put in, just going to work every day, and maybe not being in such a happy existence, but doing that for the family. And a lot of those things were really instilled in me. And I learned a lot from my parents, from what the words that they said, but I would say that I learned much more from the actions that I saw them making, the love, the care, the selflessness, just being a good person and what that means, and trying to live by that every day. So I've had such a blessed existence, which is almost why I feel a responsibility in this life to show up for many more, because to bring that feeling of acceptance or love to others can be the spark that people need to ignite them to be what they can be.
I think that's such a beautiful way to end. And I think it's so important for people to recognize and to really see those acts of service. So many things that people are taking for granted, like your mom cooking you dinner at night, or there's little moments that I think sometimes, your dad, like dropping grandma off at the front of the restaurant so he can go park the car or whatever. Like there's these little moments all the time where people are showing you that they love you. And appreciating those things, I think it gives like infinitely more gratitude in this life. And I think, Bryn, you're going to be giving back in a lot of ways, in a lot of way more overt and obvious ways. I really hope this thing with Phil goes down. It will be good for a lot of other people, not just from an entertainment standpoint, but from a more altruistic standpoint. And I'm going to be gone for 4 months, but something tells me when we come back in 4 months, there's going to be more things to talk about, more things to catch up on. So for the audience, in the interim, before our next interview in 4 months, where do they follow you? How can they keep up with where you will be, what you will be doing?
We'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, the mystery man continues. Even
And we know Phil Hellmuth is not going to accept my challenge, because he knows who the king is.
That's That's what needs to, that will be what goes out after this interview too. You spit all these truth bombs, all these like amazing things, and then like that one liner will be what makes it out. So that's the world we live in. I appreciate so much. There's no one I would rather interview for my last interview. I really needed it, dude. As you know, it's been a stressful week or so, and I needed to like come back to earth. So I really appreciate it.
Always love, our conversations, and so happy to be that last interview for you too. Without a doubt, makes me happy.
You're the best. I needed it so bad today. I gotta tell you. Thank you so much. You guys can follow Bryn mysteriously popping up every now and then on the internet. And if not, just stay tuned to Poker News because of course we will keep you up to date on all of the action.